Hey there, Maria. I just got an email from a student that asked if I could put out a somatics video, specifically how I dig into the soma, the body, to release tension. And I actually have a couple of somatics videos out there that I'll link below so that you can take a look at them, where I work with a student and take him through most of the sort of basic somatic release exercises. So I thought what I would do here is just invite you to take part in my morning practice and how I access my body and find the tension and breathe into it. So to me, somatics is really a communication with the body, and a deeper way of saying that is it's a communication between my less conscious self, my more tied to my intellect self, which is where I operate much of the time, and most of us do, and the deeper layers of my being, where things live in an energetic way. And I see the body, or feel the body is a better way to say it, as the energy system where everything lives. Like everything I'm here to work with as an earthling in this lifetime is what is present here in this body. And it's the blocks, the tight, contracted places that I bump into by projecting stories out there, and I meet my less conscious self in less than desirable interactions with other people. So this is how the physical asana part of yoga to me ties so deeply in with the dissolving of, or well, first the discovery of, the loving of, the holding of, and ultimately the dissolving of the emotional triggers that are really what stand in the way of us being fully just us, spontaneous in the moment, because they are the places where we're contracted in the energy field of the body. It's very easy to dislike that about ourselves. So if we feel anxious and nervous and scared in certain situations with certain people, it's really easy to be down on ourselves about that. And I would say every addiction out there, chemical dependency, is directly linked to that feeling. So, most people, when they go to any kind of gathering, what's the first thing you get is like a cocktail or a glass of wine or something to just kind of take the edge off everything that comes up. And what is it that comes up? It's all the fearful feelings of not being loved, not being safe, not belonging, which are the basic human needs. And the moment we're incarnating into, a little earth being, where our true essence is the divinity oneness, but this little point of attention becomes incarnated in, becomes this Maria experience or your experience. And what stands in the way of us discovering the degree to which we really aren't just this limited being, that we are the oneness, and we're cleverly playing all of our own inner turmoil, you could say, out into our interactions. When we really become aware of that, then we can start to work with it. And we can't work with that unless we really are willing to be in the body and feel the body. So when I, for example, don't drink alcohol and haven't for decades now, it's not that I have a moral problem with alcohol. It's that alcohol numbs the very information I need to evolve. And I would say that's true for humanity as a whole. And it's curious how, when COVID shut everything down, except for grocery stores and drugstores, the other thing that got to stay open, at least where I lived at that time in the States, was liquor stores. It's being treated as a human need to take the edge off. I think that your somatic exercises, meditation, and yoga, these practices are here to give us another way. And I have had many students in my teacher trainings in particular that work with me for a length of time that end up quitting drinking. Not because I ever say don't drink, you're a bad yogi if you drink, but pay attention to the information that's arising. And if you have a disturbance in the energy field of your body, or better known as like butterflies or anxiety or fear arising within, give your body a moment to tell you about that before you numb it. So what could that look like? You're getting a text, you're not getting a text, you're having an interaction with someone that makes you feel not loved, not safe, like you don't belong. And then you have something you do to feel that less, because it's a terrible feeling. And what I'm suggesting to my students is give it a little moment there. So from the moment you feel upset, and you know I'm upset, you know, there's a knot in my stomach, there's a lump in my throat, however it shows up in your body, become really familiar with your body and willing to be with it. And then give yourself, you know, X amount of minutes before you reach for your numbing agent. And when you start to become more willing to be there and lovingly hold yourself in that moment of pain, alcohol becomes second best, sugar becomes second best, the phone becomes second best. The best is love, right? If there was someone we could run to when we're sad, that would be preferable over really anything else. But most of the time we don't, and that's because we are not willing to do it for ourselves. So the yogic practice, you could say, there are many different ways that we define it, but the definition that's coming to me right now is it's a willingness to really, really love yourself. You know, we also hear the definition, yoga is to yoke, to unite fully our spirit essence with our bodily vessel. Well, our spirit essence is divine presence. So when we're divinely, completely present within ourselves, that power of love is what heals those places that hurt within. Okay, so I went off on a tangent a little bit, but it's just to say that when I approach my body and when I approach my yoga practice, it's less of a formalized, you know, I have this little program that I go through and then I've done my yoga for the day and then I can go do my real work. It's like, no, this is my real work in the world. My real work is this communication, asking what's happening, breathing into the places that are hurting. And we're not so different. The places where things show up in my human body is not so different where it might show up in your body. Most people know the feeling of butterflies in their tummy if they don't feel safe in a situation. Most people know the feeling of being, you know, tight around the heart if there's a heartache, heartbreak, if there's a reason we have this in our language. And most people know the feeling of a lump in the throat before you're going to cry, or there's something you want to say that you can't get said. It's not so unique. We think we're very, very unique and alone with our pain. And I'm here to tell you, after teaching yoga for a very long time, that you're not. That what you're experiencing in terms of not feeling safe, not feeling good enough, not feeling beautiful enough, not feeling loved enough, accepted enough, validated enough, that's pretty much the same across the board. It's expressed a little bit differently. We can go a little bit more extreme in different parts of that, but it's not so different. So, okay, so here's what I tend to do when I do my practice. First of all, I like to put a blanket down on my mat before I lay down. I'm a little bony too, I guess, but I just like to be soft and cozy when I do my practice. So a lot of my tension tend to be carried in the low back. And low back is, of course, the sacrum. It's also the kidneys. And kidneys in Chinese medicine has to do with fear. So if you have fear in your body, anxiety is another word for that, then the kidneys can feel depleted. And one thing that I would suggest for that is make sure you're hydrated. My Chinese doctor tells me drink a huge cup of hot water, warm water, first thing when you wake up so you get hydrated. Making sure you get enough minerals so you can actually absorb the water is important too. But then there's a more metaphysical approach to that, is to give this area some attention. So come to lie down on your mat. We could just do this together. Interlace your hands below the knees across the shins and draw the knees slowly toward you. Yeah, depending on your size, your flexibility, your knees might come closer to your chest or might not reach your chest, but you'll feel a little stretch in the low back, right? And then you can start rocking side to side. And you might notice that you can feel the kind of the edges of your pelvic bowl as you do that. And again, depending a little bit on your anatomy and how much of a blanket you have below you. Okay, and then the first, probably my favorite go-to exercise from somatics Soma Yoga, is arch and flatten. And that's a place where many of us carry tension somewhere in the belly and in the low back. So you can think of the low back and the belly as opposite sides of the same coin. And people tend to be a little extreme, a little bit one way or the other, where some people walk around with the pelvis tucked under a little bit, and then the feet tend to turn out. And other people tend to kind of poke the butt out a little bit, so there's a little bit of that sway back, and then the feet tend to turn just a little bit in, yeah? But we're going to access both of these areas now and loosen them up, and then the pelvis will find its own natural place where there's not, it's not kind of being forced either to be in the posterior or anterior tilt. Now, when I do this, I just lay my arms down along my sides like this, but just for the sake of this video, I will bring my arms up so you can see what I'm doing. The first couple of times here, I'll show an exaggerated version of what I'm doing, just so you can see, oh, that's the movement, but it actually needs to be way smaller than that. And that's true for everything in somatics, that less is really more, smaller and slower is more, because this is not about exercising your body per se. This is about accessing your body, that you become brilliantly, illuminatedly aware in the whole of the body. Okay, so to begin with, I'll create a little arch in the small of my back, and see what I'm doing. I'm rolling my pelvis in such a way that there's now space here between the low back and the mat. Yeah, so that's the arch. Be easier maybe if I tighten my shirt like that. Now you can see that there's a shadow there below my low back because I'm poking my belly button up, I'm tilting my pelvis, I'm creating that little sway back, and I'm creating some tension in my low back. I can feel that. So breathe into that tension, and then on the exhale, you simply let go of the muscles that were engaged. So in other words, you're not now pushing your low back into the mat and engaging your core to release. This is the other thing about somatics. We're working with one isolated group of muscles. We engage that group of muscles and then we disengage it, rather than use counter muscles to get to the other end of the spectrum, if you will. So let's do this one more time. And again, I'm doing it a little bigger just to demonstrate, and then I'll do smaller. So inhale, belly rises up, space now here between the low back and the mat. Feel the tension in the low back. And on the exhale, we'll relax that. Yeah. And give yourself a minute, just close your eyes and feel the low back releasing, relaxing, releasing, relaxing even more. You can even let the belly be a little softer. So we're just doing the arching right now. We're not yet pushing the low back into the mat for the flattening. Those of you that might be familiar with somatics, we're not putting it together just yet. So let's do that one more time, but this time smaller. So inhale, little lift of the belly, arch the low back, feel the tension in the low back, and on the exhale, relax the low back. And this is where you want to put your magic, is on the releasing. So you might close your eyes, really be in your low back, let any and all tension that you might carry in this area melt into the mat, soften all around the low back, the kidney area. Okay, so now we'll go into the flatten. So this time take a breath in to prepare, and on the exhale, push the low back into the mat. So now before I could fit my hand underneath here, now I can't. If I had a piece of paper below my low back here, I would be pinning it to the floor. So now my belly is engaged to push the low back down. And I'm doing this a little longer too, just to demonstrate, yeah? And now relax and feel the low belly relax. Because the action of pushing the low back into the mat is actually coming from contracting in the abdominal muscles. So you might even put one hand right here on your abdomen to feel that engagement so that you can experience the disengagement. And again, the belly is another area in the human body where we tend to be tense and tight. So especially if we feel like we want to have a quote unquote flat belly, which most people don't naturally have a flat belly all the time because we eat, it's where we process our food. So then we tend to kind of suck it in so that it looks flat. And then there's like chronic tension here, which can impact digestion, but also has it's a sense of nervousness, right? Let's do this one more time. So leave a flat hand just on the belly, take a big breath in. And on the exhale, push the low back into the mat. And release and let go. Soften around the low back, soften around the belly. Feel both sides of the coin here, if you will, relax and soften. And the hand on the belly can also radiate light. Imagine that it's really shining love into the lower abdomen, helping it relax, release, layer by layer. Take your time, breathe. And we'll do that one more time. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, push the low back into the mat. Feel the release of the low back as it gets to be pushed in, but feel also the tension now in the back, in the belly, and then let that tension go. Eyes closed, feel the back side and the front, and let them both soften. Feel the rise of the belly with the inhale and the softening, releasing with the exhale. Yeah. So now we're going to put the two together, but we'll make it smaller. And when you do this on your own, as you become more proficient and you don't need, a video, make it as small as you can. You'll be surprised because that excess tension is not at the extreme end often. It's at this very sort of last end of the range of motion where we carry this tension that's chronic. And it's the chronic tension that we're trying to access and release. So this time we'll put it together. The inhale will now, again I'm demonstrating, but I'm trying to make it a little smaller. You can still see it. Inhale, little arch. Exhale, flatten. Now the low belly is engaging to push my low back into the mat, and then relax both sides. And lay there and be there and feel your low back and your belly until it feels completely soft and disengaged. I had one woman in one class where I was teaching this in person in the States, and she said she had had abdominal digestive issues for years and years, gone through lots of testing and never could pinpoint what it was. And after one somatic class, she walked away without a bellyache for the first time. And what was that? That was her divine essence presence that had accessed the area, and a deep sense of relaxation had ensued. And that's not necessarily something that a doctor can do for you, right? Let's do that again. So inhale, lift the belly button up, engage, little arch in the low back. Exhale, push the low back into the mat, engage the abdominal muscles, push, push, push low back into the mat, and then relax there. And again, give yourself time. Be here, be in there. I don't normally teach this with one hand on the belly, but in this moment that feels like a good idea, because the hand has that message of relax, release, I'm here, you're good, all is well. And see how much you actually do have access to the muscles in the low back and the muscles of the abdomen and everything in between that seems like it's part of the autonomous nervous system and not something that we can access, right? You can't tell your colon to do a parasolic movement, but you can be so present with it that it finds its own healthy rhythm again that might have been impacted by nervousness or anxiety. We'll do one last one like that. Inhale, lift the belly up. Exhale, push the low back down, flatten it into the floor. Feel the low belly engage and relax. Okay, and just lay there for a moment. Let both sides of the spectrum here fully soften and release. Low belly super soft, low back super soft. And then you could lay there for quite a while. That would be good. But for the interest of making this video, bring your knees into your chest and then rock a little side to side. Just see if there is any little bit of tension that axes the low back. And then extend your leg long and take stock. And now I have a few other somatic exercises I want to show you, but it's going to be easier for me to upload videos if I don't make them too long. So I'm going to end this one here, and then I'll make another one for the other ones. So this is a really good place to start, arch and flatten. So to come out, bring your knees to your chest, roll over. Don't be scared to lay here for a moment and really feel, and then push yourself up. and then we'll get ready for the next one.